The earth got messed up big time when these freaky creatures, the calamities, showed up out of nowhere, sending everyone into a total freak out. People tried nukes, but the calamities just shrugged them off like they were puny fireworks. When things looked hopeless, bam, 13 saints showed up. These saints, who are humans, were chosen by the gods called zodiacs, and each of them was able to wield the power of the god they were chosen by. But the 13th saint, who was able to awaken without being selected by any of the zodiacs. That human is Geon Lee. So, to take down one of the most powerful calamities, the Red Eye, all the saints gathered at the Tower of Demon, where the calamities reside. After the war was over, everyone came back, except Geon Lee. When one of the 12 saints was asked about the fight with the Red Eye, he said that Geon Lee sacrificed himself for mankind, even shed a tear. Turns out, that's not the real story. Geon Lee fought like a champ and took down the Red Eye alone, but he never sacrificed himself. He was stabbed in the back and pushed into the Tower of Demon by one of the saints. He was stuck with a ton of calamities, his left arm gone, and scars everywhere. For a sec, he thought maybe it's cool to kick the bucket there, but nope. He grabbed his dagger, put it between his teeth, held his sword, and said, "Nah, not going down like this." Faced with millions of calamities, he swore not to die until he settled the score with the backstabbers. The day before confronting the Red Eye, the Archer Saint, Hugo Otis, warned Geon Lee of his impending death. Geon Lee, casually enjoying drumsticks, laughed off the prediction, playfully accusing Hugo, whom he calls Teksu, of trying to eliminate him for eating 2 drumsticks. Dismissing Hugo's advice, Geon Lee boasted of defeating calamities stronger than all 12 saints combined, prompting Hugo's silent stare. The calamities emerged on the last day of the 20th century, driving humanity to desperation until the Zodiacs, claiming the power to save humanity, chose 12 humans to receive their powers. However, Geon Lee, the 13th awakened human, surpassed the 12 saints in power and greatness. On the day they approached the Tower of Demons, Geon Lee played a crucial role in breaching the tower's gate, earning gratitude from Hugo. Geon Lee humorously requested free chicken coupons for 5 years as thanks, teasingly calling Hugo's Tiksu. Hugo questioned Geon Lee's constant chicken consumption and reminded him that his real name is Hugo Otis. But Geon Lee insisted that Hugo Otis didn't quite stick with him. The female saints asked if they would get a reward for defeating the Red Eye, and the suit-clad saint suggested a starting price of $100 million for the reward, given the Red Eye status as the worst calamity. Geon Lee proposed a 10-year free stay voucher in Hawaii since a lot of countries are going bankrupt because of the Red Eye. The suit-wearing saint teased Geon Lee about needing money and asked if he didn't want his original body and handsome face back. Geon Lee thought that the saints were greedy pigs who only cared about themselves. As they moved further into the tower, the saint told Geon Lee to not just go around saving everyone who called for help right away because they were going to need casualties for them, to raise the reward. Geon Lee thought that once they were done with the Red Eye, he was going to be done with the saints. Encountering Red Eye in the tower, Geon Lee felt the immense pressure just by looking at it. The demon boss, which is the Red Eye, roared, causing chaos with cracking ground and erupting fire, which sent the saints flying, and when they landed they fled in fear. Unfazed, Geon Lee attacked Red Eye, confident that he alone would bring it down. After he was stabbed and pushed into the tower, years passed with Geon Lee trapped in the tower. He wondered how much time had passed in the outside world. Eventually, he stopped, resigning himself to fighting the calamities. He wondered if the saints really believed that he was dead, and vowed to survive so that he could rip all of them to shreds. 20 years later, present day, Geon Lee confronts the last calamity, which pleads for mercy. Disregarding its plea, he crushes it underfoot, declaring it finally over and anticipating his return to the outside world as the place rumbles. In the destroyed city outside, 2 men, including a teenager named G-Minute, run for their lives from calamities, regretting their chosen route, which according to what they were told, was safe from calamities. G-Minute recalls a fortune teller's warning about facing an overwhelming monster he won't be able to handle, and starts to think that she is right. One of the calamities hits, causing them to fall to the ground, and the calamities surround them slowly, and G-Minute thinks that if only Geon Lee had returned from the tower, these little calamities would have already been dead. Just then, the Tower of Demons door opens, emitting a bright light, which is followed immediately by an explosion. Stones fly in their direction, almost burying them. As everything starts to settle down, the man points out a figure he sees amidst the chaos. The figure is Geon Lee, who now has 2 complete hands, no scars, and a younger appearance. He stands in a fit of rage, cursing the saints. Before the men can grasp the situation, Geon Lee, still unrecognized, engages in combat against calamities. The men are astonished as even high-ranked disciples would struggle against orange-class calamities, that the strange man smacks around like flies. After Geon Lee defeats the last clarity, he leaps into the air, and lands between the men, which startles them. Out of fear, G-Minute questions why Geon Lee is attacking them, and Geon Lee, who mistook them for calamities, assures them that everything is under control. G-Minute informs the man that Geon Lee, whom he refers to as that man, just emerged from the tower, and asks him if it isn't big news. The man dismisses the possibility of anyone surviving in the tower, mentioning that Geon Lee must have been near the tower when it collapsed. Suddenly, a massive calamity, the wolf boss, appears, frightening them. They tell Geon Lee that he needs to run, but Geon Lee fights the wolf boss, while the men cower in a corner. When everything settles down, the men cautiously open their eyes, surprised to find Geon Lee unharmed. Geon Lee, in a display of strength, commands the wolf boss to sit down as he leaps and punches it as he comes down and then declares that it's over. He calls the 2 of them, and they immediately stand answering like they are in the army, and he says fu which they don't understand. He smiles and tells them to buy him food, and clothes too. They take him to a restaurant where Geon Lee consumes 120 plates of food, costing them $1,000, which surprises the men. Geon Lee explains that he held back, considering their apparent financial strain, and orders ramen for dessert, much to the man's shock. Curious about Geon Lee's identity, G-Minute questions whether he's a disciple or a commander, and why he was near the tower. Geon Lee reveals he came out of the tower, shocking G-Minute, and inquires about the man's magical aura. The man reveals that G-Minute is a disciple and asks if Geon Lee is also a disciple awakened by the Zodiacs. Geon Lee expresses disdain for the Zodiacs, rejecting the idea of serving them as he lifts his spoon. Observing himself for the first time since leaving the tower, he is shocked and urgently requests a mirror. Stripping off his shirt, he examines his completely healed body and realizes that his left hand is back, and a new snake-shaped symbol on his palm. The faded snake symbol starts to glow, causing pain, and a screen with words appears. It says that he has experienced death and his previous stats will transfer to his new body. All tower achievements convert into EXP, leading to the development of new skills. His advanced skills and attributes evolve, granting him the power of Arphiuchus. The screen fades, and he floats in a void with only a huge green snake with glowing red eyes. Touching the snake results in a bright light, and suddenly, he's back in the restaurant, seated on the floor with his hand extended, bewildered by the experience. G-Minute extends a helping hand, concerned about Geon Lee's well-being. Geon Lee asks G-Minute if they saw a huge snake, and G-Minute recounts how he abruptly took off his shirt, examined his palm, and screamed at the mirror. Geon Lee, pondering the snake symbol, wonders if he alone witnessed the snake. The screen reappears, proclaiming him a god of Arphiuchus and detailing various powers, including super regeneration for healing. Geon Lee contemplates whether this power healed him, and then realizes that he doesn't feel the Zodiac's energy within him. He brushes all his thoughts aside and thinks that all he has to do now is end the life of the saints who ran away without him, especially the one who stabbed him in the back. He laughs evilly as he imagines them crying and begging for their lives. At the collapsed Tower of Demons, surrounded by police tapes, detectives, forensics, and reporters investigate. Speculation arises about whether Geon Lee's hidden followers or disciples who resent him destroyed the iconic tower. The tall detective dismisses the disciple theory due to the dead calamities, as high-ranked disciples would struggle against them. They ponder the identity of the powerful individual capable of defeating the calamities and demolishing the tower. The short detective suggests Geon Lee's survival and return, prompting the tall detective to acknowledge they'll have to wait and find out. In a press conference, the RE Saint Wei Yang faces a barrage of questions about the tower. Reporters inquire if he believes there's a possibility of Geon Lee being alive and returning. Wei Yang says he has no comment and leaves with his bodyguards. Frustrated in his expensive car, he curses and angrily shouts Geon Lee's name repeatedly. Wei Yang contemplates the idea of Geon Lee being alive for 20 years, but he finds it implausible due to the multitude of black-level calamities in the tower. He finds it hard to believe that Geon Lee is still alive, considering that his body was a wreck from the side effects of his abilities. Wei Yang believes that if Geon Lee did survive, it signifies the end of everything. Geon watches the press conference online and says that he will start with Wei Yang. In an airport in England, Hugo Otter steps out of his private jet and is enthusiastically greeted by admirers, who are excited to meet one of the 12 saints. Hugo asks them about the Prime Minister, and they inform him that the Prime Minister awaits him at the official residence and a car is ready to take him there. As he walks past the excited group, they gaze at him in admiration. During the car ride, Hugo receives a call from a restricted number, assuming it's reporters asking about Geon Lee, whom he believes to be dead. He dismisses the call. Reflecting on the day he forewarned Geon Lee about his impending death, Hugo remembers how Geon took it lightly. During the attack on the Tower of Demons, at Geon's request, Hugo exited the tower to face the calamities outside, hoping to defy the prophecy and praying for Geon's safe return. After the battle, the saints emerged with the Red Eye's head but without Geon. The 12 saints, which includes Hugo, were hailed as heroes and rewarded with power. Despite his injuries, Hugo couldn't accept Geon's death and tried to persuade the others to search for Geon. However, the Dark Cancer Saint, Jean-Louis Moyen, dismissed the idea, calling it foolish to believe Geon could still be alive amidst countless calamities. Moyen suggested Hugo go find Geon himself, declaring they would proceed as the 11 saints. Hugo, convinced of Geon's demise, receives a video call from the Prime Minister who mentions the Tower of Demons collapsing. Tired of constant inquiries about Geon's fate, Hugo bluntly informs the Prime Minister that he won't seek Geon and that Geon died that day in the tower. He also accuses the Prime Minister of exploiting the situation for political gain. The Prime Minister counters with information he got from the Korean government, which is Geon Lee's direct line, which had been active recently, shocking Hugo. In frustration, Hugo orders the driver to stop the car, as he wonders if the earlier call was from Geon. Retrieving his phone, he discovers a message left by the caller and checks it. The caller addresses him as Teksu and threatens to find him and end his life. Hugo, recognizing Geon's voice, urgently directs the driver to return to the airport, dismissing any other commitments. The driver reminds him that he has business he needs to attend to, but Hugo doesn't care. In the restaurant, Geon examines Ji Min's phone as he says that Teksu has grown so much that he's avoiding his calls now. Ji Min asks him who he is calling, and Geon dismisses it, saying it is no one important. Then he asks Ji Min about smartphones as he has never used one. He got trapped in the tower in 2005, there were no smartphones then, and now it is 2025. Ji Min tells Geon all about the internet and shows him trending articles about him, including critical comments portraying him as a loser compared to the 12 saints. Fueled by anger, Geon reacts violently, clenching the phone so tightly that it almost breaks. Alarming Ji Min, Geon shouts that he fought the Red Eye alone while the saints fled. After calming down, he continues to check the news about himself and comes across information about his will. Geon had planned to distribute his wealth to orphanages and scholarship foundations if he died. However, the news reveals that he transferred everything, including relics, to the 12 saints to aid in saving mankind. Enraged, Geon breaks Ji Min's phone, leaving Ji Min in tears. Geon thinks that his problem is that even if he announces his return, no one will believe him since his current appearance is so different from what it was 20 years ago. So he decides to lay low until he has ended the life of every last one of them. Sensing a presence and a warning from the screen about being watched, Geon Lee decides to step outside, pretending he needs fresh air. In the open, he spots creatures called familiars in the air, possibly Ari's servants. The screen informs him that the familiars create a barrier corresponding to Ari's and demand a tribute. Geon Lee glares at them, ready to fight them. But he hesitates when overhears a couple complaining about the news being dominated by Geon Lee's story. The couple in matching outfits, adorned with a gold brooch, which suggests their affiliation with the Gemini sect, catches Ji-min's attention. Sensing trouble, Ji-min urges Geon to return inside and avoid confrontation. Ignoring the advice, Geon continues staring at the couple. The man notices Geon's gaze and Ji-min becomes uneasy, fearing repercussions. The man provocatively exhales cigarette smoke in Geon's face, taunting him. He asks Geon if he is mad and dates him to hit him, but Geon doesn't react. The woman suggests they leave before Geon wets himself, and the man mocks and rubs Geon's head while he calls him a derogatory word and a loser before walking away. Ji-min begins to commend Geon for keeping his cool, but before he can finish, Geon interrupts, yelling at the couple and calling them cockroaches. Startled, the couple turns around, questioning if Geon is referring to them. He confidently confirms and continues to refer to them as cockroaches while cracking his fingers, sporting an evil smile. The man goes back to Geon, standing incredibly close until their foreheads touch. He taunts Geon about having zero magic, prompting Geon to flick him on the forehead. The impact sends the man flying backward, crashing into the ground, leaving the woman and Geon's companions astonished. As the woman attempts a surprise attack from behind, Geon swiftly turns around, dealing a similar blow to her, calling them flies. Geon's companion advises against using his abilities in public, and Geon tells them that if he had used his abilities, they would be dead, which shocks his companions. Kneeling before the unconscious man, Geon forcefully removes the necklace, a holy relic, stating that only saints should possess such items. Ji-min explains that a few decades ago, calamities nearly wiped out humanity, but thanks to the zodiacs, mankind survived. As the 12 saints couldn't protect the entire world, they gathered followers and formed sects. Disciples, awakened by the saints, are ranked from SSS saints, chosen by the zodiacs, to SS 10 stars, potential saints. The commander, the strongest among lower disciples, leads them, followed by A, B, and C disciples. The zodiacs derive power from disciple faith, leading to competition to attract followers, with zodiacs bestowing holy relics upon their disciples. Ji-min directs Geon's attention to the familiars, and the screen informs Geon that the Ari's familiars of fortune and greed are relishing the situation, and they are urging him to eliminate the man and the woman because they want to see blood. The familiars also promise wealth as a reward if he complies. The man with Ji-min, who understands the familiars' desires, suggests that Geon follows their wishes since the familiars are shadows of the zodiacs. Geon says he was wondering why Wei Yang's familiars were there, but now he knows that they're to fill their hungry stomachs. He leaps into the air and starts fighting with the familiars. After the skirmish, the familiars retreat, leaving Geon's companions astounded at his extraordinary abilities. Geon asks Ji-min about the unconscious man being a Gemini disciple. Ji-min explains that the Gemini sect is the strongest sect in Korea, and it is an elite group with significant influence, composed of second to third heirs from political and business backgrounds. Geon smirks, recognizing the man's designer clothes, and playfully starts looting as he sings. Later that night, Geon accompanies Ji-min to his apartment building. The other man mentions that he lives in the next neighborhood, and Ji-min bows to Geon, expressing gratitude for saving them and taking them home. When Ji-min raises his head, Geon casually asks when they're going inside, stating he is tired. This makes Ji-min realize that Geon plans to stay with him. Afterward, Geon takes a shower and proceeds to cut his hair. Emerging from the bathroom in the Gemini disciple's clothes, Ji-min gives him a thumbs up, complimenting his new look. Geon used to attach great importance to every strand of his hair because he used to lose his hair because of his abilities. He used to cry every time his hair fell out, and he never thought that he would ever cut his hair. A buzzing sound draws Geon's attention as a small calamity approaches. He swiftly crushes it with his hand, earning praise from Ji-min. More calamities appear, and Geon effortlessly eliminates them while questioning why they are targeting him. Ji-min suggests they might be attracted to his scent, but Geon dismisses the idea, claiming the calamities are drawn to Ji-min's collection of artifacts. G-Minute explains that he acquired the items from the Gemini saint and that it was kissed and blessed by a saint. Geon slices at the statue, covering his nose at the unpleasant smell it emits, while G-Minute nearly cries at its destruction. Geon picks up a mask, claiming it's a holy relic that allows observation of buyers, and promptly destroys it. He proceeds to demolish a music box that steals buyers' personal information and a watch that summons calamities. Geon expresses anger at the saints for not only stealing money but also deceiving and robbing people with these deceitful items. Frustrated, he continues smashing things, while G-Minute tries to stop him. As Geon vents his frustration, a new person enters the apartment. Geon questions the newcomer's identity, and G-Minute introduces him as Sung-jae, the owner of the apartment. Sung-jae responds angrily to Geon, saying he owns the apartment. Meanwhile, in Wei-Young's residence, he is informed that his familiars in a specific area in Korea have disappeared. A shocked Wei-Young wonders who could eliminate the familiars, considering it impossible without being awakened by a zodiac. He instructs his staff to contact the other saints to inquire about their involvement. The staff member reports that Hugo Otters couldn't be reached, and Wei-Young says that Hugo went to England to take care of some work. The man informs him that Hugo immediately left for Korea upon landing in England, surprising him. Wei-Young thinks that Hugo is Geon's closest friend, and wonders if Hugo going to Korea means that Geon being alive is true. He grabs a candle stand and throws it in anger, narrowly missing his subordinate. He instructs the man to further investigate the matter and asks if anything else happened. The man tells him that at the same place of the familiar disappearance, a pair of Gemini disciples was found unconscious, lying on the sidewalk, completely stripped down to their underwear, and according to a witness, they got into an argument with a handsome young man. Wei-Young thinks that the handsome young man can't be Geon because the Geon he knows has a disfigured face. However, things haven't been good lately, especially the rumors surrounding Geon Lee's return, the familiars in Korea disappearing, and the raid against the Spider Queen failing a few days ago. He thinks that if it continues, he will be ruined. He tells his man to get his plane ready and that he needs to see what is going on in Korea with his own eyes. In Korea hospital owned by Gemini, the man that Geon flicked lies on the bed unconscious while his grandfather yells, asking a man who did that to his precious grandson. The man, Gemini disciple A rank Frost Sung-hoon Minute, tells the old man whom he calls chairman that he shouldn't worry, and the Gemini sect sends him there to find out. Back in the apartment, G-Minute recounts to Sung-jae how he first encountered Geon and how he defeated A-rank disciples. Sung-jae expresses disbelief and points out that Geon is currently destroying all the holy relics in the house. Geon says that the relics are fake. Sung-jae asks Geon what sect he belongs to which Geon responds by questioning the necessity of belonging to one. An irritated Sung-jae presses on, inquiring about Geon's zodiac affiliation, and Geon asserts that he operates independently. An agitated Sung-jae persists, asking about Geon's awakened class, to which Geon casually mentions being a blacksmith, and then Sung-jae asks Geon's name. Geon Lee reveals his name, which makes Sung-jae so angry that blue flames emanate from him. G-Minute attempts to pacify Sung-jae, cautioning against destroying the house. The screen alerts Geon to the imminent magical explosion from the Gemini disciple, prompting Geon to advise Sung-jae to calm down. Activating his God's gaze skill, Geon sees Sung-jae's Gemini A rank status and displays his impressive array of skills. Recognizing Sung-jae as a young genius with advanced summoning abilities, Sung-jae's flames increase, prompting G-Minute to tell Geon to run away as Sung-jae is AP. Sung-jae questions Geon about his allegiance, zodiac sign, and awakened class, but Geon remains elusive. As Sung-jae's rage intensifies, Geon uses magic to subdue him, causing G-Minute to ask if Sung-jae is dead. Geon says that Sung-jae is fine, yawns, and heads to bed. Then he enters a room filled with action figures of him, which he doesn't like. Jin-Minute, who is carrying Sung-jae, who has regained consciousness, mentions that Sung-jae is a Geon Lee fanatic. Sung-jae tells Geon not to go into the room, and that Geon Lee's collection is worth more than his life. Geon Lee says that it is gross and breaks the head of one of the action figures, which makes Sung-jae yell for him to stop while G-Minute Geon continues to break more of the action figure, making Sung-jae fall and cry like he is in pain. The next morning in a coffee shop, Hugo watches news coverage of Geon's actions against the Gemini disciples. He immediately recognizes Geon's involvement and decides to locate Geon before the other saints. Just then, a waitress possessed by Wei Yang approaches Hugo, who immediately realizes that the waitress is possessed by Wei Yang. Wei Yang brings up the rumors of Geon's return and urges Hugo to share any information he has. Hugo pushes him aside, saying that he can't stand him because he is a pervert who possesses another person's body. Just then Wei Yang leaves the waitress's body, which confuses her. At a supermarket in Busan Gyeonggi-do, Ji-minute asks Sung-jae as they shop if he thinks that Geon is really Geon Lee. Sung-jae says that they look different, and Geon Lee is a hero who saved mankind. Ji-minute says that he is sure that he saw Geon come out of the tower, and super strong. Sung-jae says that he is sure that Geon is not Geon Lee because his father, who is the archer saint, told him. When they start to check out, someone yells, "Thief!" Before they can comprehend what is going on, the thief runs past them so fast that it sends them and their groceries flying in different directions. Ji-minute asks if the thief is a Scorpio disciple because of the speed, and Sung-jae says that the thief is using his powers to steal, and at the rate he is going, everything in the store, including everyone's wallet, will be stolen. The thief moves at the speed of light, stealing while thinking that even the strongest saints won't be able to catch up to his speed. When he finishes, he decides to move on to the next store, when Geon Lee suddenly punches him. The thief falls to the ground in surprise, while Ji-minute expresses his surprise to see Geon in the supermarket, and Geon says that he came to tell them to get some fried chicken. Sung-hoon-minute appears out of nowhere and compliments Geon on his agility, noting that catching a Scorpio disciple is challenging. Minute tells Geon that he looks like a normal civilian without magic, so he should call the police next time. Geon wonders about Min's identity, but before he can inquire, the supermarket begins to shake, creating the illusion of an earthquake. The thief takes advantage of the chaos and attempts to escape. However, the ground cracks open and a massive tentacle shoots out, followed by the emergence of a calamity. The thief smirks as he thinks that no matter how strong the calamity is, it won't be able to match his speed. However, before he can get anywhere, he gets eaten by the Spider Queen. A voice from the speakers warns that a calamity has appeared in the supermarket, urging citizens to evacuate immediately, and that due to the emergence of the Spider Queen, the supermarket is now a red zone. Panic ensues as people rush to escape while more calamities emerge from the ground. A calamity starts going for a little boy who is crying, but before it can eat it, Geon punches it from above and tells the shocked child that he needs to watch where he is going. He also asks the boy if he is okay as his eyes shine green, but the boy runs away scared. Geon, who is still standing on the calamity he punched, turns to the rest while the green snake he saw the previous day appears behind him as he says, "Shall we go for it?" Meanwhile, Wei Yang is informed by his driver that the Spider Queen appeared at the supermarket. Wei Yang had failed to defeat the Spider Queen the last time he fought her, and barely managed to seal her. After the appearance of the calamities, mankind divided territories into 6 ranks, according to the calamity threat level. The blue territory is God's holy sanctuary, the green is safe, the yellow caution, the orange is danger, evacuation necessary, the red calamity domain, and lastly, black, which is human extinction. The Spider Queen appearing in the supermarket means it is now a red zone. Wei Yang's driver asks him what they should do about the supermarket, and Wei Yang tells him to bury it. He thinks that no one can know about what is going on because if word gets out that people lost their lives, because the 12 saints kept quiet about their failure, they will be held responsible. He tells his driver to announce that everyone inside the supermarket is dead and sends disciples to bury the whole building. Back at the scene, Sung-hoon-minute attempts to contain the calamities in ice, but is shocked when they easily break free. Geon, surrounded by green flames and armed with cans of drinks, instructs Sung-hoon-minute to step aside, teasingly calling him a popsicle. Geon swiftly throws the drinks at the calamities, and then slices them with remarkable speed, leaving Ji-minute and Sung-jae astonished. Screens appear, notifying Geon of his accomplishment in defeating the calamities and acquiring new crafting materials, which he can use to craft new skills, and a glowy stone appears on his hand. With the newfound glowy stone, Geon thinks it could enhance his power. Sung-hoon Minute is baffled by Geon's ability to effortlessly defeat calamities with a dagger and wonders where Geon came from. He soon identifies Geon as the normie who attacked and robbed Gemini's disciples. Geon responds by punching him in the face and asking how he knew. Sung-hoon Minute points out that Geon is wearing the clothes he stole. Sung-hoon also says that the reason that Geon is so strong is because he is wearing an S-rank holy relic only Gemini disciples have. Geon, who didn't know he was wearing the relic, crushes the relic, which shocks Sung-hoon Minute, calling it a decoration. The Spider Queen roars, scaring everyone except Geon, who fearlessly charges towards her, delivering a powerful punch that sends her sprawling. This surprising feat leaves everyone, including Sung-hoon Minute, astonished, as Geon accomplishes it without relying on the S-rank holy relic. Just then the voice of the commander of the Gemini disciples, Choi Sung-yuk, urgently communicates through telepathy to all Gemini disciples present, which consists only of Sung-hoon Minute and Sung-jae, instructing them to swiftly evacuate the supermarket. He discloses that the Ari's disciples, led by Wei Yang, are en route to bury the building, to hide the evidence of his failure to defeat the Spider Queen and avoid the repercussions. Sung-yuk emphasizes Sung-hoon Minute should use teleportation and take himself and Sung-jae to safety. Sung-hoon Minute observes the chaotic scene and seeks clarification from Sung-yuk regarding his leaving with only Sung-jae, to which Sung-yuk questions if there's an issue. Sung-hoon Minute replies saying there is no problem. Sung-jae yells at Sung-hoon, pointing out that there are still a lot of people inside the supermarket. Sung-hoon Minute says he knows and asks Sung-jae what people will think if the Spider Queen gets into the city. He says that the citizens will criticize the sect, the power of the zodiac will be weakened and their faith will be shaken. He continues by saying that he still has a few teleportations left, but he can only tell 2 people, and tells Sung-jae that they should leave. Sung-jae still refuses to leave as he can't leave his friend G-Minute behind. I starts to appear on an angry Sung-jun's body as he says that he has no intention to be buried alive with incompetent morons, and he can't disobey the commander's orders, so he will get rid of everyone so Sung-jae won't have to worry. Flames emit from Sung-jae as he prepares to fight, and Sung-hoon Minute starts to boast about his superior strength when a calamity abruptly falls on him. Geon questions why Sung-jae and G-Minute are still present, and Sung-jae clarifies that the exits are blocked, and Ari's disciples are sealing off the entire building. Sung-hoon manages to free himself, yelling at Geon for crushing him with a calamity. Geon reminds him that he was trying to abandon everyone, and Sung-hoon shouts back, saying he will teleport alone. However, before he can execute the teleportation, the Spider Queen ensnares him with her webs, dragging him into her mouth and devouring him, leaving his teleporting device behind. Geon instructs Sung-jae and G-Minute to gather everyone, assuring them that the situation will soon be resolved. Outside, Wei Yang arrives and questions his men about the progress. They inform him of the sealed-off building and the established barrier around the area, and he complains about them being too slow. One of the men realizes the seal isn't working properly. At that moment, a brilliant light emanates from the building, and a massive green snake emerges into the air, stunning Wei Yang. Then the people inside the supermarket come out, asking for help. The people tell the Ari's disciples that someone has eliminated the spider, leaving Wei Yang surprised as he was unable to achieve that. Intrigued, he decides to investigate and instructs his men to stay outside. Utilizing his powers, he enters the building and is astonished to find the unilive body of the Spider Queen. Examining the remnants of the battle, he questions if the Spider Queen has truly been defeated. He feels an energy that makes him shiver, and he immediately goes to the nearest window and looks outside. Spotting Hugo Otis outside, he ponders why Hugo is there and if he's the one responsible for defeating the Spider Queen. Just then he hears a voice from his back asking if he enjoyed himself while Geon was gone, which makes him shudder. Geon smirks as he asks Wei Yang why he looks like he has seen a ghost, and Wei Yang yells Geon's name in fear and shock. Outside, paramedics attend to the injured, while Sung-jae, huddled in a corner with G-Minute, questions the authenticity of Geon being Geon Lee. Suddenly, Hugo Otis, Sung-jae's father, asks his son why he is there. Sung-jae responds rudely, questioning Hugo's reason for being there, while Ji-minute gazes at Hugo in astonishment. Ignoring Sung-jae's tone, Hugo asks his son if he witnessed the events inside the supermarket, but Sung-jae remains silent. Then Ji-minute asks Sung-jae about Geon Lee's well-being. Hugo grabs Ji-minute, demanding information about Geon and questioning if he knows him. Ji-minute, realizing Hugo is the person Geon referred to as Teksu, discloses that Geon is inside the supermarket and was the one who defeated the Spider Queen. Hugo seeks more details, and at that moment, a loud bang emanates from inside the supermarket, causing part of the building to collapse. Inside the supermarket, Wei Yang gasps for breath as Geon smirks and asks him if the first thing he is going to do is attack him when they just met after 20 years. Wei Yang looks at the man in front of him thinking that he looks a bit similar to the original Geon Lee, but he doesn't have the scar and he possesses a slightly different voice from the original Geon Lee. Wei Yang accuses Geon of imitating the real Geon Lee, threatening him for this deception. Suddenly, Geon's companion, Jian punches Wei Yang in the stomach, asking if he was deceived his whole life. The punch sends Wei Yang flying and he crashes into a part of the damaged building. Geon asks Wei Yang if it was fun backstabbing him and leaving him in the tower, and says that the saints even stole all his fortune and holy relic by fabricating his will. Then Geon expresses his intention to end the lives of the saints, starting with a beating for Wei Yang, followed by the destruction of his house, sect, and relics. Wei Yang contemplates whether Geon's return from the tower is genuine, and challenges him to prove his identity. The imposing figure of the god of Aries, Zodiac, the Jade Emperor, manifests behind Wei Yang, who commands chains to emerge and bind Geon Lee. Wei Yang then conjures thousands of swords using his divine skill, celestial armament, directing them at Geon. Geon acknowledges the impressive display, infuriating Wei Yang, who uses the swords to bury Geon. Then he brags about how his powers have increased in the last 20 years. Just then, rays of light emanate from the swords, surprising him. Suddenly, Geon emerges, his body scarred from the ordeal, and delivers a powerful punch to Wei Yang's face. Amidst the astonishment, Wei Yang questions Geon's true identity, to which Geon, bearing the scars, confirms that he is indeed Geon Lee, declaring his return. Geon complains about the pungent odor emanating from Wei Yang's weapons, while his scars begin to vanish. Wei Yang is astounded by Geon's regeneration ability, deeming it seemingly impossible even for skilled healers. Geon receives an alert notifying him that he has gained a new skill since he was on the brink of death, and Geon expresses his gratitude to Wei Yang for his new skills. As Geon prepares to test his newfound skills, Wei Yang tells him to wait. Suddenly, a screen appears, revealing that the Aries Zodiac is surprised by Geon's return and is incessantly whining before disappearing in frustration. Left alone, Wei Yang vents his anger and curses at being abandoned by the Zodiac, while Geon revels in laughter. Geon informs Wei Yang that, in his generosity, he plans to make Wei Yang experience the same level of pain he endured. Minutes later, Hugo and Wei Yang's men enter the building, shocked by its devastated state. Hugo, utilizing his powers, locates Wei Yang buried beneath piles of stones, and concludes that it is Geon's doing. The men sense Wei Yang's energy, but the energy is too weak for him to be alive. Hugo clears away the debris and descends to Wei Yang's body, discovering a letter from Geon with a cheeky message, "Fat but here. Best of luck." Meanwhile, Geon reaches the museum housing Wei Yang's collection of his holy relics. Inside, visitors capture images of the relics, with a central gold statue of Wei Yang. Geon senses his holy relic, but discovers everything he sees is fake. Spotting a toothpick he used, he smiles, calling it his precious. Breaks the glass, and alarms immediately start ringing, which leads to hundreds of guards running to the scene. The guards instruct Geon to surrender, but he defiantly waves the toothpick, sending them scattering. The toothpick transforms into a slime, which is his holy relic, which leads him to unlock new skills. With the relic on his shoulders, he heads out but senses powerful energy from a closed door, and decides to collect the items inside. Hugo arrives at the museum, frustrated by the chaos Geon caused. Geon emerges with a huge bag of collected items. Hugo yells his name while running towards him. However, Hugo runs past him and meets the man with crutches behind Geon, as he thinks that that person is Geon. Hugo grabs the man, asking him questions like what happened to his leg. When an angry Geon kicks him for not remembering what he looks like, Hugo sees the slime on Geon's shoulder and realizes that he is the one. He immediately hugs Geon, but Geon punches him in the stomach. Then Geon gets an alert that the god of Sagittarius, Zodiac Apollyon, has made an appearance. At that moment, the god appears in a bright golden light, which surprises Hugo, and Geon wonders why the god is coming out now.
The story is just getting interesting. Please like, share and subscribe to get more interesting videos from Fight Manhwa.